We're back in studio with Gold Game Film featuring Frank Holmes. Frank, thanks for joining me today.
Great to be here.
Right, Frank. So last week you were in New York City, interviewed with my colleague Daniela, of course. And from what I heard, the conference seemed to have more of an upbeat feeling towards the gold market, some interest in PGMs as well. Now, coming back this week, seeing gold flirting with 1,300 below this morning, up yesterday. What do you feel the sentiment's like right now?
I think there's still basic apathy and skepticism. That's what I get that feel that was in talking to people, doing other forms of interview and inquiry. But I still, advocate that 10% weighting in gold.
Right, now let's stick with that number, $1,300 for gold. It was above $1,300 on Monday for Victoria Day here in Canada. Now we see it below $1,300 today. What do you make of gold movements so far this week?
Well, historically, this time of year is always extremely sloppy. Gold is just sloppy in May, June, and usually bottoms in July, August for the seasonal turn for 6-month run. And it's always much more robust of looking at gold in the second half of the year for the seasonal runs.
So then should we be looking for maybe some more action in July for gold investors?
Yeah, I think that was really important. We saw the CPI numbers last week were 2%. We saw core at 1.8%, which is basically ex-food and ex-oil energy costs. But 2% inflation is a reflection that there is inflation coming into the system. The TIPS market, the bonds which relate to inflation-adjusted bonds, they've been rising for the past month. I think these are all factors for gold to rise because I don't think they can really lift interest rates very high because the economy is so fragile globally that it would stifle any type of global rebound.
Right, now sticking with interest rates, this week we're going to be seeing, obviously the Fed will be speaking. We also have Flash PMI coming out. So I mean, what do you see as gold's touchdown pass?
Clearly, domestically is going to be the federal papers, that the analysis of what the Federal Reserve is saying on Wednesday. But I think globally it's going to be the Flash PMI, the HSBC Flash PMI, which is basically 90% of the survey of the manufacturing companies coming out of China. That is a key number. For us, it's around 48.2 is the 3-month average. A number above that would say we've got a bottom. However, if it's below that, it says the trend will still be negative for another month.
All right, Frank, and if you were to pick one that would really carry some weight with the gold market this week, which one would you pick?
PMI. Yeah, I think that PMI is much more significant because it has an impact on GDP per capita growth in China, and the correlation for the love trade of rising GDP per capita for China and for India and other countries is very, very high. Over 90% correlation. So we must get the GDP per capita turning in the other part of the world for that love trade to really sink in for additional accumulation of gold.
All right, Frank, let's take it over to overtime and see what kind of investment opportunities are in the gold sector.
Well, I think there's some of the gold stocks that are coming with discoveries, and that's always important in Quebec. And we're seeing some other activities of companies trying to restructure their costs. There have been some creative financings taking place. But the best is platinum palladium. I mean, I think that's where the real opportunities are when it comes to just owning the commodity. It looks like more platinum will be imported into India for jewelry. I think you're going to see the continuing increase. And environmental impact by China going for clean air, clean water to such a high degree is going to only increase. We've seen a wonderful rise this year. Supply will continue to be difficult coming out of Russia and South Africa. So I think those platinum, palladium, PGMs trade higher.
Okay, Frank, let's look at some threats now. We have numbers coming out, a report coming out from Bloomberg stating that Chinese imports, gold imports, were up. However, Chinese jewelry sales, gold and silver, were down. So, I mean, what kind of threats do you see here?
Well, when you look at a year over year, and you've got to compare what took place last year with a big break, and there was a record accumulation of gold with a monstrous drop last year. And I think that throws off the data points compared to this year. I think we have steady accumulation, but the real key to see rapid rising increase in accumulation is going to be a rising GDP per capita.
Beautiful, Frank. Thanks for joining us today.
Take care.
And thank you for watching this edition of Gold Game Film with Frank Holmes. If you have any comments or questions, don't hesitate to send them to newsfeedback@kitco.com. Have a good one.